Hello and welcome to the Daughters of the Milky Way podcast. We are so happy to have you here. My name is Natalie and this is my co-host Amy. And before we even start into the conversation today, I just want to invite you, if you're anything like us, who you likely are listening to this podcast while you're doing something else, I just wanted to take a moment and invite you to take one deep breath in, just to allow yourself to have a moment of presence before we get into the conversation today. So let's collectively take a deep breath in and out in this moment, feeling more centered, more present, and ready to receive. We're so excited to be talking today about creation energy and manifestation. It's going to be the theme that we'll be covering for the next few episodes. And today is just going to be Amy and I talking about manifestation and creation energy. And then we'll have some guests in future episodes who will be talking about this topic as well. So, Amy, I'm going to pass the mic to you
Yes.
and take it away.
Hey, welcome everybody. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to start off with a definition of what manifestation is and creation, just so it just sets the tone and then we can go from there because definitions are so boxed in. So manifestation is an event, action, or object that clearly shows or embodies something, especially a theory or an abstract idea. Creation is the action or process of bringing something into existence. And then there's another part that says the bringing into existence of the universe, especially when regarded as an act of God, like galaxies, the world, the universe. So that's the definition.
Yeah.
What do you think, Natalie?
Well, it's so interesting. So, manifestation is something that, since I was younger, I don't know if we ever talked about it in that way. But I'll say, when
I,
I was younger, I have a very vivid memory. I remember my parents had the cassette tapes for the Silva method. This Jose Silva, perhaps you've heard about him, but Jose Silva had these tapes, these recordings that he created, and they were really about accessing deeper powers within our brain. Like I remember that's the way that it was marketed at the time, and I was young. I must have been maybe 8 or 9 when,
oh,
I would come home from school, and I was going to Catholic school at the time, and I was ready to get out of my uniform and, like, go outside and be a wild child that I was. My mom would make me sit at this seat, like, I remember this seat, I remember the cushion, and she would make me do these meditations, which were basically these meditations to, like, drop into the theta state, uh, go into the deeper levels of our brain. And now I understand it was, going from that to the brainwave state of like the theta state. And so and I remember she would have me do this practice, and I'd almost be like kicking and screaming because again, I was a child who just wanted to be like outside
right.
playing and running free. I didn't want to have to sit here and meditate. But I'm really grateful though that she introduced that to me at that time because it set the stage for future. But I remember at that time she was having me do these practices because I remember there was something about Jose Silva. He created the Silva method because he wanted his children to be really good at school. And so he's creating the ways that they can do well in school, have good grades and all those things. So that's what my mom's intention was for me also to do well in school. So for studying, for example, there's like these different techniques of ways to access the subconscious mind while you're studying. So then when you're taking the test, you can literally pull up the information, like consciously pull it up. And then I remember because I played basketball later as I was growing, I played basketball. And then so she was having me like, oh, I can introduce her these practices and she'll be more motivated because it'll help her be a better basketball player. So like shooting foul
Oh,
shots, for example. So it was like, creating the mind movie in your mind, not the mind movie that Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about, but Jose Silva talked about a different kind of mind movie where you basically like go into that deep theta state and you would visualize like you
uh-huh.
would close your eyes and like with your eyes closed picture like a 45-degree angle that there's like a screen and you would visualize yourself doing the thing consistently, like repetitively have this meditation that you do to like watch yourself in this screen in your mind's eye doing the action of whatever it is that you're wanting to be better at doing. So yeah, that was a very, grammar school, middle school, high school. That's what I was doing at that time, learning about these techniques. again, kicking and screaming. That feels important to name that I was very stubborn in my desire just to be a wild child, at that time, and I
I
was
like
sharing
that.
before we started this recording, I was sharing with Amy this story that an experience that I had when I was younger, um, that really, like, set the tone for everything that, when it comes to, like, manifestation. Again, at the time, it was that's not the words that we were using. My mother, my sister, and I, manifestation wasn't the words. We just didn't have the words at the time. But my parents were getting divorced. It was time to go to from 8th grade to go into high school. My father wanted me to go to public school, but I was already experiencing everything falling apart because of
Yeah.
my what was happening with my family. That the idea of being taken out of the community that had been holding me in all of this felt even more traumatic because I would be essentially on my own in so many different ways. And so my mother also at the time, she was a homemaker, she was a seamstress, but she wasn't generating her own income yet. And so logically, it didn't make sense for us to go for this dream. Like everything practical would have said, go to public school, like suck it up, just do that.
Yes.
But everything in her being, everything in my being, everything in my sister's being, we're like, "No, that's not the way. That's not the path that is meant to happen. She's meant to stay in this community." And it wasn't even about, like, it being a Catholic school or anything like that. It really was about this community was holding our family in a way that we needed at that time, and that was just the right path.
Yeah.
Logic was out the door. There was no proof at the time that, like, this is gonna be an easy path. Like, it was just that was the hard path, was to choose to go fully into this vision, this dream that we were holding. And we put all eggs in a basket. Like, when I tell you all eggs, I didn't even register, apply, anything. There was no other option. It was like fully going in with every cell of our beings into like, this is where she's going. This is the path forward. And I remember, we were meeting with the Monsignor, the admissions officer at the school, my basketball coach. Actually, it was my basketball coach's wife, because she was also basically my basketball coach. At the time, she was working at the high school as well, and she was connecting us with people there, like networking. And I just remember, meanwhile, like parents are in the middle of a divorce at this time. It's not even like it
Yeah.
was finalized. That was all happening simultaneously. Going to lawyers and doing all that stuff, all
Yeah.
happening at the same time. And so I remember my mom doing the Silva method every day. She would just like focus on doing that while also handling all these different appointments that she was going to and also holding the grief of her marriage ending. Like it was a lot. There was
Yeah.
the atmosphere at that time was like pure and utter chaos in so many ways. Meanwhile, I was just playing the sports and traveling basketball. Like there was just a lot
Right.
at that time.
Yes.
So really when I like think about all the stuff that was happening, there was a lot. There was a lot going on. And I remember, yeah, we'd have these meetings and like, okay, like there's financial aid options. Here's another option for scholarships to apply for. Here's a way that, my mom can volunteer at the school and then they would reduce the tuition. We were just looking at all the options. Meanwhile, consistently, she was doing the Silva method every day, repetition,
Right.
repetition, repetition, and staying open to the possibilities. And this is important. This piece about repetition, about taking action, and then also doing the subconscious work or rewiring one's
Yeah.
subconscious. They're all important pieces of this thing that we call manifestation. So yeah, it was like the day before graduation, they had an award ceremony where they let everyone know like what awards, all the different awards that they give out and the scholarship. And so I remember sitting in the church, it was a really big church, and my last name starts with a Z, so I'm always at the end for my
Yeah.
class. Always. It was very easy going to school. I knew where I had to stand in line when it was alphabetical order. So I remember I was sitting at the end of the pew for the rows we were sitting in. And, this is packed, like overflow is packed. Like this is a packed church. It was a big church. It is a big church. It still exists. And so they're announcing all these scholarships and all these awards and stuff, and I remember thinking like, "Oh, yeah, that's a scholarship I applied for. Oh, didn't win that one. Oh my god." And kind of like at this moment, I don't even remember how long the ceremony it felt like it went on forever, but just having this moment of like, "No," because they kept naming people who are winning these things, and I realized like, "Well, that's not my name. I didn't win that one. Didn't win." I was like, and I remember she's like, "Oh, shoot, what am I gonna do now?" I don't have a plan B. There was no other plan. And so they like
Oh,
got to the end and they were like, okay, this is the last scholarship that we're announcing tonight. And this was the biggest scholarship too. I remember there was always four winners for the Century Club scholarship. There it was a half year tuition would be paid basically with the scholarship.
yeah.
And that year was a particular year they were doing something new and they've never done it before, but they were going to reward a full scholarship to someone. And for some reason, the way that I understood it was that they were going to name the four winners who were going to win the scholarship. And from those four, they were going to name the one who's getting the full scholarship. So they go ahead and like, I remember one of my friends won the scholarship and I was so happy for her. And then another person, like these people, I basically grew up with these kids. So like these are people that I was happy for them. And
Yeah.
simultaneously, I was like, oh, dang, they did not call my name. I was like, man, I was started spiraling. I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? Like, this is my win. Like, this is was gonna be the thing that was gonna save me. And I remember it's like a very visceral that pit in the stomach. And then next thing I know, they're calling my name. But I was
Ah,
so in the spiraling, I actually didn't even hear my name get called. And one of my best friends was sitting right next to me, and she like grabbed me, and she's like, "You won! You won!" And I remember she literally pushed me out of the pew. I stumbled out of the pew and be like, wait, what? Like I was so confused. And then realized as I'm walking, I mean, my breath was held. I wasn't even breathing. I was
yeah.
so confused. And I remember my breath finally came out when I got to the top and I was shaking their hands. And then I realized, oh, I won a full scholarship. I didn't even know that was on the table. Like we didn't
Oh,
know ahead of time that that was an opportunity, that was even an option. And they were
wow.
accepting this full scholarship because we had fully, fully, fully gone in. Like there was complete coherence with this thing that we were manifesting. There was no doubt, and I mean, there was a little doubt at the end for me, but
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
was no doubt. It was a whole like months and months and months of staying diligent and repetitive and like visualizing. Like I would see myself wearing the uniform for that school and like going to that school and what would it be like to like walk those halls and to be part of that community and that emotional because it wasn't just like, oh, I want this thing. There was a strong emotional tie to what what we were creating together. There was this sense of like community and home and like hope that was just strong. That was like, this is what I like. This is what the reality that I want to create. To be held in community, to be in this space. And I
Yeah.
just remember like that was the first time that something so big like that happened. And to this day, my mother, my sister, and I, we understand like, oh, we've experienced miracles in our life. Like that's
Yeah.
not something that like is some, oh, that's cute or like that's a good idea. Like that actually is like a lived experience of like you can really create the reality you want. That's not like lip service.
No. And you
And
did it at such a young age.
yeah, at such a young age. I was like, so yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah. And so when it comes to the idea of like manifestation and creation energy, like I know that's real. I've seen it happen. And that's like a big story. I mean, I have so many other stories of that as well
Yeah.
throughout the ages. I mean, I've even forgot that that was
Yeah.
possible because we're
Yeah.
funny like that. Sometimes we forget the
Yeah.
things that we're to do. I kind of
That
go
was
some whole circle. I'm like, oh yeah, right. I've done this before.
I mean, that's deep in your bones.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That goes
Yeah.
deep in your bones, like, you know that. And
Yeah.
you can actually access that energy from that
Yep.
and make it happen today. That's how I
Yeah.
saw it.
Yeah. Yes,
Like, you
exactly.
could yes, you that's such a feat of wow.
Yeah.
And you all did it together, which was so beautiful too.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think we need to do it alone, but you do need support from each
Yeah.
other, and then when you're in that little circle of, "This is what we're doing," you
Yeah.
all build that together.
Yeah.
I think oh, that's giving me chills, so that
Yeah.
feels so real. That
Yeah,
feels
you know
so
what was
real.
really important is that, like, we made space for the fear. We didn't let the
Yeah,
fear take over, but we were held in, like, processing the fear that was coming up. Like, what if this because that's an important piece that I feel that something that I've learned over the years is that we're always creating and we're always manifesting. Like, we're literally like, that's our inheritance that we all have. But it's just a matter of, like, are you aware of this? Like, are you aware of the subconscious stories and programs that are creating the reality that you're living,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. Well, sometimes for me, manifestation happens I could be thinking of something and it happens. That could be tricky sometimes because
Yeah.
you might not be ready. You
Oh,
might not
yeah.
be ready for it, and that's another like, "Oh boy, I wasn't ready for that," but if you're working with your spiritual team,
Yeah.
I think they're always kind of working. I mean, I hear little things, you know?
Yeah.
And then sometimes they surprise you
Yeah.
"Okay then, they believe that I'm ready for this."
Yeah.
I mean, even this podcast was, "What?
Yeah.
What?" Like, I wasn't looking for that,
Yeah.
but I felt spirit was like, "You're ready.
Yeah.
You can do this now. You can use your voice and bring that to people."
Yeah.
Very nice. So,
Yeah,
yes.
to share with people, like, this podcast, Liv Wheeler, who we work with,
Yeah.
is a teacher of ours. She received the guidance from the Candomblé that they wanted this to be created, and then they
Yeah.
had planted that seed with me a few months ago. And that's why I was like, "There's a lot happening. I can't do this on my own. This is not something I can't man this ship on my own." And then
Yeah.
and then they were like, "Amy, like, reach out to Amy." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that feels good." I was like, "All right, let's reach out to Amy." And then we planted the seed with you, and then we got the ball rolling and all those things, and then here we are.
I
Sometimes it's like
know.
that. Sometimes it's like you get that divinely, like, the download from the divine of, like, this is the path forward, or this is where, like, the guidance of, like, go this way. And then
Yes.
and you do have to meet that energy.
You do. You do. I agree with that because sometimes what was I gonna like, okay, so we talked about manifestation and creation. So what is the difference of manifesting versus creating? I think they work hand in hand.
Mm,
I think that something has to set the foundation for the manifesting,
mhm.
and then the creation happens as you're building it. For me, I can
Yeah.
only speak for me. Because manifestation is kind of like, you're kind of like feeling you're like waiting, right? So you have this thought and you want to attract that, and then the creation helps to weave it. It co-weaves it with what my thought is. Does
Mhm.
that make sense?
I think so. It's like it feels like when you're thinking about structure, it makes me think of, like, oh, that's like a very divine masculine energy, like the
Uh,
structure of it.
yeah.
And then the
Well, we do
creation
need that.
energy would be like the divine feminine. It's
Exactly.
like
There you
the
go.
masculine holds the feminine to be in that dance of creation.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, the masculine is the action.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it's interesting too because, like, I like stories. Stories are what help, like,
Yeah.
ground things for me. So I remember, for example, I'll try to keep this story shorter. I remember when I was fresh out of college, I was in the corporate world. I worked there for 6 years, and I kept having this feeling inside of me of, like, this is not my forever. Like, I'm
Mm.
here for now, but this is not the path that I'm not gonna be at this job 10, 20, 30 years. But this was just like a moment in time. And so I was trying to figure out, like, where's the next step? Where's the path leading? But I didn't have clarity around that. Did a bunch, like, try this path, try the trying to look at ways and realize, like, no, it does, like, naturally holding space for people is what would happen in a job that I wasn't meant to hold space for people. I was working with attorneys at the time, and I'd go in their office to talk about different projects they were working on. The next thing I know, an hour passed, and I had just helped them process some, like, relational stuff they were going through.
Yeah.
And then after a while, I realized, I'm like, "You know what? I really do need to stop being stubborn and just explore psychology." Because at the time, I thought psychology was just, like, me making meaning of, like, your experience. That just didn't feel good for me.
Yeah.
Because I had, like, that, like, the way that therapists were depicted in movies of, like, a person sitting on a couch and then me with, like, a notebook. That just sounded
Yes.
boring to me.
That
Like, that
sounds
didn't
boring.
sound, like, something that was fun for me. But then also, like, at the time, I was like, I'm also really like, I feel strongly about spirituality, not religion at that time. I was like, there has to be a way that like integrates the two. I remember at the time I was looking for ways that spirituality and psychology like integrate basically. And so that was what led me to transpersonal psychology or integral counseling psychology. And I realized the program that I was looking at was in San Francisco, which is one of the most expensive places to live,
Yeah.
and it was across the country from where I was living. So I needed realize, oh my God, I had to quit my job, sell like everything, move across the country, and figure it out. Basically,
Yeah, and that's faith,
again,
Natalie.
that thing about practical mind would have said, and I had a lot of people at the time like, "Are you sure you want to go there?" Like,
Yeah.
there was also a different program in Boulder, Colorado, which is a little less expensive. But they were like, "There's this, you can go there, or you can do online school, or you don't really need to look for this type of psychology. You could, there was plenty of people in my ear trying to convince me otherwise, but I felt this feeling in my heart of no, this is the path I'm meant to follow. And I at that point have learned like follow that gut feeling, follow
Yeah.
that intuition that's telling you no this way. And even again, not the practical mind was like, what are you doing?
Uh-huh. Well,
This
that's where the
doesn't make
faith comes
sense.
in, right? The faith.
Say it again.
Have the faith.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
faith that it's gonna work out. I
Yeah,
know that it's over there in San Francisco. It's not in
yeah,
Colorado, it's over
yeah,
there.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that is really brave. We have
yeah.
to be brave when we're manifesting too.
Yes,
And
and
there's
I
gonna be
remember
ups
I
and
had a
downs.
coworker who was like, "Aren't you afraid?" I'm like, "Afraid of what?" And at the
Yeah.
time, she was specifically talking about flying and her fear of flying. And I remember telling her, I was like, "I can't live my life from a place of fear." I was like, "Because I know if I do that at the end of my life, I'm gonna have so many regrets that it is gonna be like a mountain high." I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm aware that this is a big, big, big leap of faith because I was making good money. I was like, I had
Yeah.
like climbing the ladder in a really, like, good way. There was a lot of opportunities. I could have got into sales. I could have there was things there money-wise that I could have done, but that just wasn't fulfilling for my soul.
No.
And so I was like, "You know what? This does not make any logical sense, but I know deep within that if I don't make this decision, if I don't do this leap of faith, that I will regret it for the rest of my life."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I did that. And unbeknownst to me, this whole world opened up, not just going to get my master's in school, but then it led me to like spiritual work. It led me to live. It led me to all these teachers that I studied under outside of the classroom. It connected me back with my ancestors. It connected me with this work. It connected, like, I am where I am today because of that choice that I made
Yeah.
back in 2015.
Yeah. I love that.
And, like, it's these moments that we have of like, okay, well, there's a crossroad, there's a choice. I feel sometimes when it comes to manifesting, it's very much of like, this is a choice point. You get to choose because we're always creating, we're always manifesting, we're always receiving guidance. It's a matter of whether or not we're paying attention to that. It's a whole other story. But I feel like we have these moments in our life where it's like, this is a crossroad, this is a choice point. You get to choose which way you're going to go. Like when people talk about different timelines, it literally feels like this is the choice point. This is the, what's that word? Access point. You can choose this timeline or you can choose this timeline. Which one are you
Yeah.
going to choose?
Yeah.
And I feel
Exactly.
when it comes to manifest, like I feel that's what a lot of people when it's talked about like quantum leaping or quantum jumping, or there's a lot of now the manifestation world talks a lot about the quantum. And it's
Yeah,
like,
they do.
okay, how are you going to magnetize this? There's multiple parallel timelines occurring at the same time. There's multiple versions of you that are existing in time and space. There's a part of you that's, already living that experience of the thing that you're wanting to manifest. How do you
Yeah.
magnify this? How do you do that quantum leap of magnetizing that version of you to be in the reality that you're existing in right now?
Right.
Back
I
when I
love
was
that.
younger with the silver method, those aren't the words that they were using back then.
No.
It
No.
was very much about the
No.
brainwave states, which honestly all work. Like it's has since expanded in the vocabulary and the way they're understanding it because people have been growing and expanding, like the collective consciousness has been rising. So now we have more understanding of the ways that we are creators. We are constantly magnetizing experiences where, a lot more people are talking about synchronicities and paying attention to signs. And like Amy and I are in completely different time zones right now. It's
Right.
early morning for me, it's afternoon for her. When I
Yeah.
woke up today and I looked at my phone, it was 4:44, and I had
Uh-huh.
this like, "Today's a good day." Like, that's a good energy to start the day with. And
Yes.
just, like, paying attention to those different things. You know, some people would just giggle and be like, "Oh, that's so woo-woo." Maybe, but you know what? The woo-woo is becoming more scientific. The more and more, you
Yes.
think back 20
I
years
know.
in the past, like, those things that people would consider, like, woo-woo now is, like, quantum physics. Like, it's
Yeah.
proving that, like, "Oh, that's not woo-woo, that's actually true." Like, quantum
I know, and
entanglement, for example.
I believe that we all have our own ways of manifesting and creating, right?
Yeah,
So if that works for us, you, me, then it
yeah,
works because it's showing proof that it works. And then
yeah.
you stay with that. You stay with that stream of, okay, all I have to do is really say it and it'll happen. Really? Okay.
Mhm.
Like the story for me was that this is kind of a fun one, but I remember that I would go to the paint store. I was painting at the time, like a room, right? So I'd visit the paint store and she had this gorgeous poodle, this like tall, big standard poodle,
Ooh.
black. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so gorgeous. Oh my God, I would love to have, we already had a dog, right? I would love to have, my God, and they don't shed and they don't, you know, it's beautiful. Their snout, everything is beautiful, gentle. So I just put that in my mind. I'm like, wow, that's such a beautiful. So then I was a preschool teacher at the time and I'm reading a story and it's about a poodle black dog to the class. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that wow, I just love poodles. I love poodles. So then I think it was about probably a couple months later, my husband goes to my sister and brother-in-law's house, which is probably 2 hours away. And he goes there and she has a black poodle. She has a black poodle. The story behind that is that her husband did not want this dog, but she had borrowed it from the woman because he was like he was going to be one of the dog shows. Like he was that
Yeah,
beautiful. It was a miniature. It wasn't the big one. It was the miniature
yeah.
poodle. But she was training him, but something happened and he wasn't perfect enough for the show. So my
Oh.
sister's like, "Oh my God, that's a beautiful dog." She takes it for a couple weeks. Her husband's like, "No." And my husband Dave calls me and says, "Oh my God, Amy, she has a black poodle here, and I don't think she wants it. I don't think she wants the poodle." I'm like, "Oh my God, oh my gosh!" So the next day he comes back, and then the next day I'm like, "I'm driving out there. I'm driving out there. I'm gonna go see this dog." And voila, we got the black poodle. The lady says, "Yes, you can, buy it from me and take it home." And my sister was happy because it was stayed in the family. She's like,
Yeah.
"I'm just happy that his name was Louis. He came with the name Louis. I'm
Aw.
just glad Louis stayed in the family."
Aw,
I'm
so
like,
sweet.
"What?" Like, that was just little I wasn't really if it happened, it happened. If it didn't, it didn't.
Yeah.
But I think
That's
deep
important.
down
That
yes.
piece right there is important too. Yeah.
Because yes, I was so excited and I was just so happy and, he actually passed away a year ago. He lived for 15
Oh,
years, so
wow.
I know. He was the
Good old
best
Louie.
dog ever. And so, I think that that's sometimes it just falls in your lap.
Yeah. But I feel like that piece that you said about Amy about, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. There's something important in that because I feel
Yeah.
sometimes you hear people like, for winning the lottery, for example. Oh, I need this money. There's a
Yes.
way that that repels the energy because there's like
Yes.
that grasping or there's
Clutching
like a
it.
clenching that occurs. Yeah, and I have found over the years of observation that having that energy is it's going to push away the thing that you're trying to create.
Yeah. I
Like,
also think oh,
you know, God,
I also think that that could be connected to the nervous system.
totally, please
In a way.
keep going.
Parasympathetic
Yes.
yeah, parasympathetic, sympathetic. Sympathetic, fight or
Hmm.
flight, I need that.
Yeah.
Parasympathetic, rest and digest, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, rest and digest. Like,
Yeah.
let it live in you for a minute, let it live there.
Yeah.
If you clench it, it's that safety I don't know.
Yeah. No, you do know because what happens is like, and I hear, with the Daughters of the Milky Way Priestess training that Liv and I are co-facilitating, we were given the guidance from the Candomblé to really dive into like the subconscious rewiring work ahead of time. Like I think if I remember correctly, they were like very specifically, like, you have to pave the way. So we
Yeah.
were, I think it was like a year and a half before even launching the program, going deep into subconscious rewiring work. Again, we already had the foundation, again, what the story that I shared about with the Silva method. And then Liv on her own, she's also been studying this stuff for years. And so a lot of the things that we were finding, like the commonalities, because there's so many beautiful teachers out there, so many
Uh-huh.
folks like on YouTube that are just talking about manifestation and these different practices and nervous system rewiring and all these things. There's Neville Goddard, there's Jose Silva. Oh my gosh, there's so many teachers. There's like countless teachers, and I don't even remember all of their names. But one of those things, that people are talking more and more about, which is exciting for me because like 5 years ago, I feel like people weren't talking about the nervous system in the way they are now. But that piece about the nervous system, there's this one woman, if I remember correctly, her name's Jamie. I want to say Jamie C. I can picture her. Like I can see her. She's on
Uh-huh.
Instagram, and she also has YouTube videos as well. And she talks about the nervous system. And I remember watching one of her videos of like, so if you're a lot, it's common that people want to manifest money, right? So that's like a common theme that people are looking to manifest. And I
Yeah.
remember in one of her videos, she was talking about the version of you that exists right now. The nervous system of that version of you needs to expand to be able to hold a larger amount of money. Because what's happening is that if your nervous system doesn't feel aligned or regulated, it's going to, let's say 20,000 comes into your bank account. If your nervous system's not ready to hold that, it's going to like, you're probably gonna spend it, give it away, like, it's gonna just as fast as it came in, it's gonna go out. And I know there's another Brian Scott, he has videos on YouTube as well. I love his, videos that he creates. And he also has talked about, I think it's the $1 million mindset, I think is the video, where he also talks about this, like, what's the lowest amount that your nervous system feels capable of holding in your bank account, and then what's the highest amount? And then how can you support your nervous system to expanding that? Because we have like a glass ceiling in the sense of like what our nervous systems in this moment because of the experiences that we've had and the ancestral stuff we inherited and all the things
Yeah.
that create who we are has a capacity of what we can hold when it comes to money. Because again, a lot of people, when it comes to manifesting, they're focusing on manifesting more money. And so it's like, okay, there's this capacity, but what are the tools that you have access to help your nervous system feel more expansive, to go beyond that glass ceiling that you have? And everyone has there's an amount for everyone for how much they can have in there that their feel is safe enough for them to hold.
Yeah.
The millionaire mindset is also very much like, it's just like a different way of thinking. It's not trading dollars, or excuse me, it's not trading hours for dollars. It's understanding that, wealth is a birthright. It's like
Yeah.
we are the word I'm looking for. Like we expect that to happen. Not that we're grasping it for it, but it's like our energy, our nervous system, that's the expectation it's holding. That's the home base. That's the
Yeah.
foundation you were speaking to before. Like the foundation is holding the expectation of like, no, this actually is what I expect to happen every day. And then
Yeah.
it's aligning, like, it's looking at like what's the subconscious stories, programs, limitations that you have set in place that's contrary to that belief that this is the expectation that I'm holding. How to
Yeah.
like reprogram the reticular activating system to be able to pick up the signs and the things. Like in your story, it's so beautiful because you were just first, you had the experience of like seeing this black poodle
Yeah.
and had the emotional, like, this is a really beautiful dog. Like, I love this. This is beautiful. It just having that, like, and then paying attention, like, oh, you're reading a story to your students. You noticed
Yeah.
that there was a black poodle. You didn't pick that book because of black poodle. You just noticed it. And so in a way,
No.
you know, like I imagine your nervous system was like
Yeah.
feeling regulated, like getting used to the idea of like a black poodle being in your
Yes.
experience, whether it's through a book or like at the paint store or, and you were open enough to the possibilities. You weren't like
Yeah.
scrolling through,
No, where can I
in
get a
Google.
poodle?
Yeah.
Where can I look
You
for
were
one?
like, how am I gonna finance? Because
Yes.
poodles can be quite expensive. Like,
Yes. And he was a good deal.
but you're open to it. You're just like, I'm open to this. I'm open to
Yeah.
this reality where I get to experience having a black poodle. And it wasn't like a cognitive mental thing. It was like an emotional, like
And you
regulated
know what?
nervous system experience.
Yeah, and I think also with the dog, like, just animals in general, like, I think that you connect with them. I probably was connecting with Louie already in some
Totally.
capacity.
Totally.
We just needed everybody to do their part and
Yeah,
synchronize so that it can happen.
totally.
Yeah, that
And
feels
that's a beautiful even that is a beautiful example of how manifestation can work. Like what
yeah,
you just said it.
yeah, you and your
Mhm.
family, you did that.
Yeah,
Just how I did it, mine looks a little different, but you did
yeah,
it. I love this. I love this.
yeah.
And well, Natalie, don't you have some tips for us?
Yeah. We're looking into like what are some if you're new to manifestation, like conscious creation, what are some practices? And there's like I said, an abundance videos
Yes.
and practices. There are videos of people who've like been studying, breaking it down, taking in notes. I can't there's another woman on YouTube, I can't think of her name right now. But she literally has like a notebook of like data that she's accumulated when it comes to the
Wow.
manifestation. But I just want to share some simple practices that you can try in creating a daily practice of like starting to if you're first starting out exploring like what is this thing that they're talking about, I'm curious about it. And again, we're going to be talking to some people who are creating some of these videos that are
Uh-huh.
on YouTube. Really excited about interviewing them and just learning from them. And also there's an abundance of information that's out there. So something
Yeah.
that I'm only gonna name like 2 or 3 practices. I have like 8 listed here. So one thing that
Okay.
I like is we call it morning anchoring. So it's like in that space when you're first waking up before the conscious mind starts getting busy. It's the hypnagogic, I think that's how you pronounce that word,
Hypnagogic. Yeah. Yep.
hypnagogic state that you're in. It's like that state between sleep excuse me, between sleep and wake, when your brain waves are going from that deep state to the more conscious mind state, that space is like gold because your conscious mind is
Yes.
highly receptive in the moment. The moment before going to sleep, when you're in that state, and then the moment when you wake up. First moment. Like before you check your phone, just that moment, before you're conscious. So there's a lot of different things that you can do at this time. Like some people, I know for several months I have there's an app on the phone called Parrot app, and I had recorded, gosh, I think it was like 2 minutes worth of affirmations, which is another thing. It's called scripting,
Yes.
another process. I am, I have, I feel. So those are the type of affirmations I am. And I would say, I'm trying to remember some of them. I had them like plugged into my brain. I can't think of the examples right now, but
Yeah.
scripting is another practice. So you create like it's not I want, again, because we're not having that grasping
Yes.
energy. We're creating the reality, we're scripting it, we're repetition of the I am already this. I am, it could be like,
It's
I am so
already happened though.
grateful. Yes. I remember one of them was like, I'm so grateful that um, money comes to me in increasing quantities on a daily basis through multiple streams of income for the good of all that I get to keep. That was one of the affirmations that
Cool.
I would say it in my voice on the Parrot app, and then the Parrot app like it loops through your recording. So what I was
Oh,
doing for months and months and
cool.
months is the moment I woke up, like the moment either my alarm went off or I just naturally woke up, I would automatically press the Parrot app and have that loop consistently, repetitively. Put a timer for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Just
Yeah.
have it going. There's another
Yeah.
practice too.
But no, I wanted to say something about
Go ahead.
that in between twilight, I call it the twilight. I get my best information. It could be one sentence, one word, something. Like the other day, I woke up and I heard, "You are strong." And I'm like,
Ooh,
I heard that clearly in my mind.
yeah.
It was as if there wasn't even a whisper, but "You are strong." I'm like, "Whoa, okay." So, it's those little things, and you can ask before you go to sleep, "Let me
Mhm.
remember my dreams, let me remember the first thing between the in the twilight when I fall asleep and when I wake up."
Mm.
I think that's such a beautiful space that a lot of people don't even know that it's there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
So, I
also,
just
like,
wanted
if you're because thank you for saying that because it reminded me of something else. So many people have the habit of, like, going to sleep with the TV on, for
yeah,
example, and, like, what you
yeah,
don't realize when you're doing that is that that's also, programming your subconscious.
Yes.
Um, and also, like, I mean, there's the blue light and all that other stuff too, but, like, also that's programming your subconscious. So if you're in the habit of watching TV as you're going to bed, I mean, I know in feng shui, it's not good to have the TV in your
No,
bedroom.
no,
I've never had a TV in my bedroom. I feel
no.
very strongly that's just not a good
Never
idea.
let my kids either. My kids could not
Yeah.
have a TV in their bedroom. Yeah.
It's just not a good
Uh-uh.
idea because
No.
we are being subconsciously programmed all the time. Our
Yes.
subconscious is constantly taking in information and framing the way that we're seeing the world with or without our conscious awareness. So if you
Exactly.
are a person that, you know, oh, I only can fall asleep watching TV, gently remind you, like gently invite you to change that habit. There are many amazing YouTube videos out there that are subconscious reprogramming sleep meditations
Yes.
that, you know, if you do need that, like hearing something while you're going to sleep, which I understand a lot of people do. My mother's one of those people.
Yeah.
I gently remind you or invite you to switch what it is that you're allowing to be repetitive programming your subconscious. Again, there's
Yeah.
amazing YouTube video. Brian Scott's one of those people who have just really
Yeah.
awesome sleep meditations that you can listen to because it is honestly, it's so vital. That's going to be informing the way that you're when you're in your waking world, what's the energy that you're working with, how you're
Yeah,
magnetizing, how you're in that creation.
it sets your nervous system too.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another practice for that morning anchoring is Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about the mind movie. This is different from the mind movie that I mentioned with Jose Silva. This is
Yeah.
literally like a visual movie that you create. You know, I used Canva to create my mind movie, but you can do
Oh,
iMovie,
yeah.
you know, all the different ways that you can create visually something that you look at. You want to incorporate kaleidoscope imagery because that helps your brain go into that uh like higher consciousness state, like people who have spiritual awakenings, people who work with plant medicine, stuff like that, where they're activating different parts of their brain,
Mhm.
they'll see sacred geometry. Like that's a thing that
Mhm.
people experience. And so
Mhm.
kaleidoscopes create that like visual of like the sacred geometry. So it helps your brain go into that like deeper brainwave state when you're seeing that, especially when you're in that between sleep and waking state. So
Yes.
you start with the kaleidoscopes. You also put a song. You want it to be the same song that is playing while you're listening to it. Because then when you listen to that song later in the day, like it comes on the radio, for example, it's going to be reiterating because you're associating that song with the mind movie. Even if you're not actively watching the mind movie, when you're hearing that song at another time, it's going to like reaffirm that mind movie into your subconscious. And then the mind movie
Oh,
itself is, you know, you can take like stock video, for example, and look at these different images of what you're wanting to create in your life.
yeah.
And you can put I am statements scripted in between the videos themselves, you know, really act like find a coherence with the mind body, the emotional body, the nervous system, the energy, like all of who the multi-dimensional being of who you are, finding coherence with all of those dimensions as you're watching this mind movie. It's a really fun practice. I like doing it.
Yeah. I love
And
that.
it's something that really can shift the way that you are really when it comes down to the way that you're relating to yourself.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
and then another thing that is great that I love doing is theta meditation. So whether it's binaural beats or a guided meditation, basically anything that can drop the brain waves into the theta state, because
Yes.
that's the state when we're like we're I think of that as like the creative state. That's basically opening a direct line to the subconscious. Even if you're doing it 10 minutes a day. Like remember I was
Yeah.
telling you about with this Silva method, my mom would have me do these meditations. That was dropping me into the theta state, those meditations, like actively doing that. And it could be like, it really was probably 10 minutes a day. It felt like forever as a child, but
If yeah, of
it
course,
really was
yes.
just like the practice of getting into those states, like
Yeah.
consciously getting into those states at minimum 10 minutes a day. And that's
Yeah.
going to, over time, it's going to create change. We get into those flow states sometimes when we're driving, sometimes when we're cleaning dishes or doing things that are like,
Yes.
get us into that flow state. I'm talking about actively, like you're choosing to get into that flow state.
Yeah.
There's ways that we can be hypnotized multiple times throughout our days. I'm telling you to actively do this, like with
Yeah.
intention, go into for at least 10 minutes a day, just going into that theta
And that
brainwave
can be
state.
hard. Yeah, that can be hard for some people. I know that in the beginning, it was hard for me to sit still. Candle gazing
Mhm.
seemed to be easy for me because I could just sit and just look at the candle flicker or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, don't be hard on yourself if you can't meditate. It for me, it took a while
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're itchy. You're itching. You're like, you could just feel everything when you're trying to get into that state. You're like, oh my God, everything's like, why do I feel that itch? But
Yeah.
yeah, but once you do it, it's so beautiful because you can get so much information for
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's great because it's a practice, right? A
it
practice.
is.
We're practicing getting into that theta brainwave state. You don't
Yeah.
have to be perfect. It can be
No.
challenging. I mean, I've been meditating for many years now, and sometimes I still even have difficulty at
Yes,
first when getting into that state. Because my conscious mind just may be too active, or yeah, I can relate to that feeling of like
that
itchiness.
happens.
Last night I was meditating and I just started feeling itchy, and
I
I just needed
know.
to take a moment to allow myself to
That's
wiggle my
okay.
body and, like, itch because I had mosquito bites, so I just needed to, like, itch, and it was okay, like, I kinda, like, chuckled about it at the time because I'm like, "Oh, this is really funny."
Yeah,
And it's okay to have that space. It just may mean that you might be meditating a little bit longer because it's gonna
right.
take a little bit more effort to get into that theta brainwave state, but it is so, so good for us to do that repetitively. That's one of the
Yeah.
things when it comes to subconscious reprogramming and manifestation is that repetitiveness
Yes.
of whatever it is that you're doing,
Yeah, and set
because
your
we're already
intention.
doing things, you know?
Yeah, and just set your intention of the manifestation. There's also chanting. I forget the name of it. There's certain chants you can do too. Once you do your intention, you just chant it.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I don't know the name of it. Sorry
Like
about that, but
mantras?
it's in the language, it's in
Oh,
Sanskrit or
Sanskrit.
something. Yeah, there's a
Mhm,
thing on YouTube. Yeah, look up Sanskrit chanting because that got
mhm.
me really good into that
Yeah,
theta
sometimes
state.
that helps actually with meditation is to have a thing that you focus on because that is that repetitiveness and that, like,
Yeah,
melodic,
mhm,
that
yeah.
repetition, but with melody can help one get into that deep trance state. That's why chanting, kirtan, for example,
Kirtan, that's it!
melody, yeah. That can really
That's
be
it,
helpful because it
Kirtan.
helps you get into that, there's, like, the melody that you're listening to. That's why the
Yeah,
Mind movie is so great because there's a melody, so your brain it's already receptive to be into that state because there's a melody, there's repetition, there's emotion that gets evoked because the sound frequency,
yeah,
and then
and
there's,
there's
like, the
some
visual, on the different layers. You're engaging all parts of the mind and the body
yeah.
and the soul.
Yes, and the soul. It all works together. Wow,
Yeah.
this is so lovely.
Yes, we are so
I like
excited to be diving into this topic, as you can see. I'm
yeah,
looking forward to the guests that we're going to be connecting with, Amy, because we're just going to learn so much.
I know, I can't wait. So, we will be in touch with that,
Yeah,
with our guests, and, I mean, we could do part 2 of this. I mean, there's just so much we didn't get through,
yeah. But
but
in
we
the
appreciate
meantime, if
you.
you haven't already, like and subscribe. If you're listening to us on YouTube, like and subscribe this video. Follow along with this journey. We're so excited to bring these, very potent conversations into
Yeah,
your field. And yeah,
yes.
is there
We
anything else
appreciate you.
before we close, Amy?
No, I think that feels good to me. Like, this was great conversation and a great chat for people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Till next time. And then our next episode, welcome once again to the Daughters of the Milky Way podcast. We're so happy to have you here and looking forward to the next.
Looking forward to it. Bye, everybody.
Bye.